In problem 14 of the MSP practice test, we are given a table with some x values and some y values, and we're asked to choose the linear equation that represents it. And so if you remember from any time you have a table that represents a linear equation, you need two things. You need a slope, which is the change in the y values compared to the change in x, and you need a y-intercept, which is the point at which the graph crosses the y-axis. So if I were actually graphing this equation on a graph, I would be looking for a point at which it crosses the y-axis, and I would be looking for a slope. And it looks like this one has a positive slope because it's going up. When x goes up, y goes up. When they're both going up, that means this line is going up. And the question is, how much is it going up compared to how much it goes over? So if I look at the change in y, each time it goes up a half. So from here to here goes up 1/2. From here to here goes up 1/2. So the change in y is 1/2. And the change in x is just 1. So each time the x goes up from 3 to 4 to 4 to 5. So my change in y over the change in x is 1/2 over 1, or just 1/2. 1/2 divided by 1 is 1/2, or if this was 0.5 divided by 1 would still be 0.5. So my slope is 1/2. So I know that my equation is at least y equals 1/2 x. And then if I were looking at the rest of it, because I know the standard form of a linear equation is y equals the slope times x plus the y-intercept. And there's a couple ways I could find the y-intercept in this case. I could graph it, put it on a graph, or I could put this equation into a graphing calculator, or I could put these numbers into a table in a graphing calculator. But I think it's easiest just to work backwards from here, because what I really want is the point at which x is 0, right there. So if I just kind of modify the table and fill in some spaces here. Since I know it goes up a half each time, I also know it goes down a half each time. So if I go from 1.5 down a half, that's going to be 1. If I keep going down a half, it's going to be a half. If I go down a half more, that's going to be 0. So the y-intercept in this case is actually 0, which means the equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 0, which I really don't need. So really the equation is y equals 1/2 x. Now, probably some of you are saying I could have just looked at the numbers and figured out that y is half of x, 2 is half of 4, 2.5 is half of 5, 3 is half of 6. So each of these numbers is half of the x value. And so you could have probably reasoned this one out, but if it was a more difficult table, then you would need to have a system for solving it, finding the slope, and then either working backwards to the y-intercept or finding a way to understand what that number is, what do I have to add or subtract after I multiply the number times the slope to find that piece. So the correct answer for this one is simply letter B, y equals 1/2 x. And that's a way you can solve linear equations represented in tables.